when you say like, that art is trash, I mean, it isn't that subjective though. I mean, it isn't.
No.
No, why not?
Beauty is not in the eye of the beholder. There's objective beauty. For example, I did Art Basel in 2019, but the biggest story headline for that Art Basel was there's a banana duct taped to a wall that was sold for $150,000.
Mm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, only a person who believes that gender is a social construct, that white skin de facto makes you evil, that children can consent to gender reassignment surgery. Only a person who believes that level of thinking can buy that that's art in the first place. But to any sane person who cares about tradition or who was brought up proper, that's insulting to your intelligence, right?
Arthur Kwon Lee, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on, brother.
Man, I'm glad that you were able to fly in and be here. How was the flight?
It was nice. I come to Nashville 3 times a year because a lot of my creative peers live here, and I love this city. I love Nashville.
You've been coming here for a while?
I would say the past 4 years, I've been coming several times.
Okay. Yeah, nice. Now, where did you grow up? Like, what part was it? The United States?
I grew up in Northern Virginia, and I was very close to D.C., like a 15-20 minute hike from D.C. So I grew up being very close to some of the woke culture we talked about pre-show,
Mm-hmm.
and I ended up getting into art, obviously, and went to art school at GW, and then I started my art career, and most of my success came from when I went to New York City. So I've been in the East Coast, in the Virginia, New York area, DC, New York area. That's where I did most of my career as a fine art painter.
Okay. And just for the viewers to know, I mean, you are a very successful artist, award-winning artist, and you got canceled basically
Right.
from that scene. So, and we'll go into the all of that here in a little bit, but I wanted to kind of give some context if people are just starting to listen. So, you went to GW. You kind of started the scene. Where did you go from there?
Well, I'll first say that when I went to art school, I knew I was going to be an artist because I was always sort of introverted minded. I always wanted to do something individual. That's why I like martial arts. That's why I like painting. I knew I wanted to explore that frame. So when I became an artist, when I went to George Washington University, the first thing I noticed was it was basically a leftist indoctrination center for activist training. And I realized that art college today is not actual art training. So I immediately had one foot now in the door towards like caring about culture in a much deeper way because I became an artist for a very innocent reason because I love painting. It was almost self-therapeutic at that way. I was against government school since I was a kid. I was very aware of that. And being cognizant of that, I knew I wanted to work for myself. So I'm an artist here and I go to this art university assuming to learn from greater masters. And what am I exposed to? I'm exposed to this radical left postmodern ideology. And right there, I realized that the art world in its modernity has a can of worms that needs to be fought. So that was sort of the beginning of my journey as this strange warrior artist in the culture.
Yeah, so
I don't know if that answers your question.
no, it does. It answers part of it. So when you went to the art school and you saw this culture agenda being pushed, did you give pushback at school?
So I would say what I learned at art university is social camouflage. I learned to blend in so I won't be ostracized. And in a way, it's because I was being kind of beta-ish. Because I wasn't speaking my mind as openly as I am now. Now I'm super unapologetic now. I speak my mind on whatever I feel like talking about now. And I became an artist to maximize freedom, right? So I just blended in. And, I realized today that excuse me, this is me looking in retrospect. All of the institutions in the art world, including the colleges that we're talking about, they're all arms of propaganda. And they're all basically a way to train artists to become disseminators of this degenerate culture that we have today. And so I just blended in. And that was sort of my training towards how I'm going to fit into the art world. Because after art university, I started my career, started talking with galleries, started schmoozing with these dealers and curators. And I noticed it was even worse because there's now this wrongful association towards art education and working with galleries. When previously, before the Frankfurt School created art universities, artists were like atelier based. You know, you just trained under a master and you develop your skills. And now it's how can you be utilizing your talent from the lens of an ideologue,
Mm.
which tells you about the culture.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the ideologue, you know, it's only one type too, right?
Yeah, it's the loony left.
Yeah.
You know, it's the loony left, but it's not only leftism, and it's not only like, see, what I would say is all of these branches, whether it's leftism, feminism, the race virtue signaling through BLM, all of these different identity groups, they're all under the blanket of collectivism. And what I came to see both in art school and became more fully articulated the more competent I became in understanding this game in the art industry is that all art and art history as well, it's this tug of war between collectivism and the soul. And what I mean by that is when you look at aesthetics, that plays out as well. Like basically the two polarities in the art game, it's aesthetic relativity and universal standards. And what I am saying is that we have this false belief that ideology is separate from aesthetics, right? So you'll think, okay, this person believes X, Y, and Z, and then they produce this type of art. No, the people who are producing this hogwash on the wall, where you see like splatters of paint being sold for $500,000, those can only be produced by very left-leaning thinkers. Because, for example, if you see art produced by a conservative, they're conservatives, so they believe in tradition. You know, so de facto, there's a pedagogical standard they want to produce from. So now there's techniques and skills associated with that. You see what I'm saying? So often we think that aesthetics and ideology are separate, but they're the same thing. And what I saw in the art world, as a person who's a defector from the New York City art world, is that the reason why all the art is such crap today is because all the everyone in the game is brainwashed by the dominant narrative. So of course the art is crap. So I was already displaced in that way. And when I started to speak up against it, that's when things got rocky. So I started to come out of my social camouflage armor, and that's when I was starting to burn bridges little by little.
Yeah, when you say like you know, that art is trash, I mean, isn't that subjective though? I mean, it isn't.
No,
Why not?
beauty is not in the eye of the beholder. There's objective beauty, and for example, I did Art Basel in 2019, and the biggest story during that show, there's an art show called Scope. I was showing it in one of those booths, but the biggest story headline for that Art Basel was there's a banana duct taped to a wall that was sold for $150,000. Right? Now, only a person who believes that gender is a social construct, that white skin de facto makes you evil, that children can consent to gender reassignment surgery, only a person who believes that level of thinking can buy that that's art in the first place. But to any sane person who cares about tradition or who is brought up proper, that's insulting to your intelligence, right? And yeah, beauty is not subjective. You know, art is not a relative thing. That's an ideology pushed by postmodern thinking, actually.
But you're talking about like you know, the paint colors put together, and you know the you might like something like, or you might not like that. Let's say that I like something like that. I mean, is that part is subjective, right?
Here's what I'll say. Art can be beautiful in a decorative sense, right? So there's decorative art, and that's fine, you know. And that's all aesthetics. That's all formalism, right? But there's also contextualism. And I guess what I'm saying is that ideal art, there's a statement associated with it. There's a story, there's meaning. So there's form and there's context. So whenever you see a traditional critique, whenever you go to any legitimate art school, when they're doing critiques, it's basically when all the art students and the professors are breaking down the composition so that we can become better artists, right? And they always function from the lens of formalism and contextualism. And there's a degree of, subjectivity on the formal end. But ultimately, there is a better way of drawing proportions. There is a better way of capturing values and contrast and showing lighting and how to use your brush. And there is a superiority of technical skills and how you should act it out. So
it's kind of like a blue belt doing an armbar and a black belt doing an armbar.
100%.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah. So it's like a white belt coming up to you and saying like, yeah, but isn't jujitsu subjective?
Oh, right.
And you're gonna be like, oh man, this guy has no idea.
Right. I'm a white belt in art for sure.
Yeah. No. But there's parallels, and it's like Musashi says, once you understand the way deeply, you see it in all things.
Sure.
And I'm a judoka myself, so sounds funny, but I've always seen connections with martial training and visual arts, at least cortically from a cerebral lens. And the push towards aesthetic relativism is always being pushed from one side, because that's the only way they can win the culture. Because in all actuality, high culture belongs to those who want to preserve tradition. Like when you look at all the greatest timeless masterpieces throughout history, they're always undergirded by religious subject matter, for example. There's a reason for that, right? It's passed down, and it's because there's a standard where we have to make the art point upwards. Now, you look at all these other artists who are often paid by the CIA, by the way. Warhol, Pollock, all of these people, they're trying to push out.
They were paid by the CIA?
They're CIA agents. Again, I'm telling you right now, when you study art history from the lens of spiritual artists versus utilizing creative class for propagandistic reasons,
sure,
it's very telling.
I can say that, like, so Andy Warhol, like, is it like, are there documents that show him being in the CIA? Like, is it what's?
Yeah. Now it's public record.
Okay, it's public record.
Yeah, these artists were, basically put out to create produce a cult of ugliness.
Interesting.
Because what that does to the people. So a lot of people don't understand okay, let's go very simple here. Like what would you say is the purpose of art and fine art? What is the purpose of art? That's an open-ended question, but what would you say is the purpose of art?
Gosh, that's a good question. To give beauty to the world, to make people think in a different way,
Yeah.
to create an emotion with something visual that doesn't necessarily have to be visual, but to create an emotion with the piece.
So I would say the first thing you said in regards to trying to create beauty, that's ideal. But I would say across the board, all mediums, whether it's comedy, whether it's watching a theatrical performance on Broadway, painting. We're not talking about decorative art, by the way.
Okay, I was thinking more of like paintings.
Yeah. Well, I would say all art is to normalize values.
Okay, so all art in general, to normalize values.
That is, see, because it's a form of seduction. It's not logical. You're watching art in a relaxed state. So it's influencing you and it's pulling at you romantically. And the reason why many artists have always been used for propagandistic reasons, especially by those who want to, utilize communist values, it's because they're going to generate a certain value structure. Here, we can look at it from a modern sense. We don't even need to look at our history. Like, if you look at the right versus the left today, anytime there's a debate on Politicon, whatever it is, the right, they focus on spreadsheeting and pie charts, data, economic-based data, you know, facts don't care about your feelings, right? The left, they know they will lose the economic argument, so they don't even put any effort into that, actually. They just would rather have control of big tech, academia, Hollywood, entertainment, and the art gallery. So therefore, you're controlling all the cultural institutions so you can actually direct the culture and young people especially.
Yeah. No.
So while we repeat this mantra that fact, like that politics is downstream from culture, okay, well, they're gonna just hijack the culture and keep winning in that regard.
Yeah.
And this is why they're effective, because we don't understand that, like, we can win romantically as well. And I think there's more weight in there, to be honest.
But don't you think too that the Republicans, or conservatives, I mean, they're pretty full of shit too.
Oh yeah, no, I don't consider myself a conservative
Oh no, I was just
anymore.
saying, like,
Yeah,
you're talking about
Yeah.
what the right and the left. Like,
Yeah.
in the United States, Republican, Democrat, I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not
they're
on the-
full of shit.
Yeah, and it's like, so you lose the people on the left that may be, influenced culturally by these institutions because you're not consistent. You're not
Yeah.
actually following what you say that you believe in.
hmm Yeah, I guess I'm pointing out a serious pitfall I see in regards to critiquing strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm giving this diagnosis, I see that this is where the right falls.
Mm-hmm.
They don't appreciate the power of aesthetics in art. They don't utilize that to their advantage. And I'm saying this as a person who's not necessarily conservative,
Mhm.
But obviously the left, they're lacking all their numbers, the datisticians, right? Because it's a losing argument. But I'm just saying this because I noticed that there's people who understand how to utilize a creative class, and there's those who do not. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's an interesting thought, because they have hijacked all of those things.
100%.
I mean, as you were talking about going through school, I mean, how long do you think they've been planning this for, though?
Oh, they've been doing it since the inception of the Frankfurt School, if we're going to talk about U.S. history.
When was that?
So the Frankfurt School, well, I'll speak from a fine art dimension, for example. Like I was mentioning that, like art education, for example, that was produced by a guy named John Murphy, and he was a member of the Frankfurt School in 1937. He wrote Art and the Social World, and he actually writes in this essay that the function of the fine artist should should shift from spiritual servitude to political activism. He blatantly writes that. And it goes to show you, because that's the substrate that all these art academic professors and all their art theories use. That was the foundation.
Interesting.
And yeah, so there's
it's only the
there's
political activism
Marxist
that they
reasons
believe
for
in.
this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was saying it's the only political activism that they believe in too. It's not like, you have to have these specific views for them to accept you.
100%. That's why I got kicked out too. And my story is not uncommon. Like I know a lot of other artists. I know this one photographer, she was kicked out for being based as well. And me getting kicked out, I mean, obviously like people often ask, like, what's the moment that caused you to be ostracized from these art dealers? And I have a hard time pinpointing that, because it's like if I ask, like, why did you get divorced? It's actually a betatization through 1,000 concessions. It's, you know what I mean? It's multiple things that added up that caused this moment to actually be castigated.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I can name a couple of stories where I burned bridges that are more I guess, out there. But it was much more the fact that you have to spend so much time with these art dealers, and they just want to control you. They want to control you ideologically, and you have to keep repeating their sentiments like a parrot. Like, people don't understand. You hang out with your art dealers like several times a week.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of time, and I'm like, do I want to keep doing this?
Yeah. I mean, I guess so. You went to New York City after art school.
Yeah, well, I spent like a couple years after art school just trying to make it work in DC, and I realized the art scene there was nothing compared to New York, because I ended up shipping work to do group shows at that stage to New York. So I was like, I had to be in New York.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when was this? When did you go to New York?
I got to do the math. It's been a while. um, 2017, 18, something of that sort.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you go to New York around 2017.
Yeah.
I guess 3 years later or so, and from 2017, 2018, 2019, were you already kind of making waves? Because you won. What award did you win?
I won Artist of the Year in 2020.
Okay.
So this is recent, but this is a fresh thing I'm doing with Ed Clay right now.
Yeah, and that's awesome.
Yeah, in 2020, I won Artist of the Year from the Eileen Kaminsky Family Foundation. They're a really reputable residency program, internationally known. And that was a big deal for me because that's what caused these dealers and White Hot Magazine, biggest art magazine in New York, like all these people started to cover me because of that. And I was kind of like the new kid in the block. And I ended up also, with that momentum, to add to the context, I was going to get sushi and hang out at these like nice fancy places with George Berger, who's literally the art dealer now laundering money for Hunter Biden's art. Like I was hanging with all these people that were, I wouldn't say I agree with them morally in any way, but they had money. They had money and they were schmoozing me and building me up, letting me know that, all right, kid, you can be a part of this game with us. But they're repugnant to me as human beings.
Yeah. So what was that? So from 2017 to 2020, you're kind of working the scene, you're networking, you're, kind of filling things out. You're probably having your, ethically, you're like, gosh, what do I do right now? This is a little confusing as to what steps to take. How far do I want to go in this? And obviously you eventually left. But, what was it like, the first 3 years before you won that award? What was it like to kind of build your reputation in the city?
It was very, it's very hard to monetize creativity. And every artist who listens to your show understands this sentiment. I remember I had a teacher in high school that I looked up to who said, if you can find out what you love to do, and if you can monetize that, that's one of the secrets of life. And I was like, okay, beautiful. But he never told me that you'll be starving and struggling for the first like 10 years.
Right. I mean, that's part of it though, right?
Yeah. So
Builds character.
I had a little bit builds character. I had a little bit of that. It was challenging at some points as well, because from Virginia to New York City, cost of living goes up, but then more opportunities as well. So I was getting shows once in a while. So usually the way it works, just so people can understand our industry, imagine like a 3-tiered pyramid. Okay, at the bottom you have like starving artists. You're a barista. You just do like weird little pop-ups. The middle is sort of the Wild West. You can do group shows, festival shows. Once in a while, get a solo show. Those are like middle tier galleries. You can do pretty well there if you get up high. That's where I have most of my claim to fame. The top is a totally different animal, and that's where I was having one foot in the door in, like getting sort of vetted. And that's where it's basically a financial instrument to money launder and evade taxes, but there's also like the occult inside there. So the top of the art world is a totally different thing. A lot of people don't know that. So I was just getting one foot in that door. And then I flew too close to the sun and I called them all a bunch of pedophiles and then I get kicked out.
Really? So yeah, you had one foot in the door. What was that? How long did you have that foot in the door?
Very short.
Very short.
Yeah, I would say it's like less than 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm just hanging out and going to these like private parties, dinner, all these stuff, hanging out with these people regularly. And but I will say I learned a lot about culture and strategy from this experience because these are people who have so much money and patronage to support certain artists, to be agents of a certain voice, right? Like they'll give these people world-class tours and all this. And the first thing I noticed is all these spots, and I'll just say them right now. Jane Hotel Rooftop Bar in New York every Tuesday evening. They still do that. The Norwood Club Thursday evening. Like all these spots that we hang out with, like they're all like wealthy Democrat elites and then the talent congregating together. Like I don't think the right does that. And again, I'm not trying to speak with that dichotomy.
The right definitely doesn't do that. No.
But I'm not trying to speak with that again, that polarity so stringently, but I'm just saying, like, in regards to utilizing the creative class to disseminate your values, that is kind of brilliant.
mean, wouldn't you say though that the left in general is more creative than the right?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, and that's again Peterson's trait openness. He talks about that. That makes sense. Yeah. Um, yeah. This it's hard to find the unicorns, the people who have, you know, some sort of wholesome sentiment in their heart, but they also have that ability to be experimental in their creative pursuit. That is it's like two separate opposing goals, you know?
Sure.
So it is hard. You're right. That's why it's so rare.
Well, yeah, like I've got a lot of
Yeah.
friends that are musicians on both the right and the left, and even the ones on the left, like if you were to read some of their posts, you think that they're like, these crazy leftists. But when I talk to them, I can have logical conversations with them. We might
Mm,
disagree, but actually, what we're both looking for is the same thing. We just have different ways to get there. Most of them, honestly, haven't looked into it as much as they're not thinking about it as much as I am,
right.
and they're open to those ideas too. So I think, like, in a way, um, you know, they are being courted by, the left and people that can, see the advantage of having them involved with campaigns or having them involved with
100%.
those type of things. But they're not bad people, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I would say most. Yeah, I would say most artists. They just a lot of them. And I don't want to sound like I know better. I'm not saying that, but a lot of them they haven't looked at like the data. They're not cognizant of that. They're just like more romantically trying to get behind a certain message that they
Right.
feel like is more kitschy and feels good for them. But I will say though, this is nothing new. Like again, I study art history a lot, and a lot of people don't know. But if you look at some of the great tyrants throughout history, they all understood you have to utilize your artist.
Interesting. Give me,
All of
give
them.
give us some examples.
Okay. I was reading about what these dictators did in their own time when they had private time on their own. Joseph Stalin and Mao, Adam and poets. Kim Jong Il studied cinematography extensively. Francisco Franco, painter. Adolf Hitler, painter. Like these are all people who understood influence in art, and they always utilize a creative class for propaganda. And I'll use the most recent one, Hitler, as an example, right? So Adolf Hitler actually had the Thule Society behind him. So I'm mentioning this because when I was in New York City, I was always hanging out with wealthy elite, right? That were left leaning with talent. And I always noticed, I'm like, this is really smart of them,
Hmm.
right? And then I thought about this. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do some research on this. And then I came across the Thule Society. And there's a lot of modern parallels.
What's the Thule Society?
The Thule Society is known for being like Hitler's occult background. But also more than that, there are also this inner network of German elites to congregate with a lot of their talent, world class talent in Germany. And to me, this was like, wow. The reason why the Nazis were effective, and I know people are like, where are we going with this? Is because they totally understand propaganda. Their effectiveness is based on their mastery of utilizing propaganda. And here's what I mean. When you saw the anti-Semitic posters they started to put up, right? They started off as silhouettes of a Jewish person with a nose with the Star of David and then some German written on it. That's how it started. 4 months later, another poster comes out. Now they hired an illustrator, a different artist. And the illustrator depicted this homelessly, scary looking Jewish guy actually grabbing money from a German boy,
Mm.
like a cartoon. Only 2 months later, they depict those same Jewish people as rats now. So here's what I'm saying. The analogy of the boiling frog is always utilized in effective propaganda. But they have to, first of all, have this source of talent that they utilize for their propaganda.
Hmm.
Because the best propaganda is artist. And this is what I came to see. And as this is going on, Hitler also closed down this art school called Bauhaus. Bauhaus was the biggest art school in Germany at the time. And, there was basically a chance of there being like a counterculture in Germany from the artist. And he closed that down. So he can have complete control of its artist.
Wow.
And for me, I was like just reading this as a lesson, realizing like there's so many modern parallels. And the same reason why Jay-Z and Beyonce were up there on stage gallivanting around with Hillary Clinton is the same reason why Joseph Goebbels was instructed by Hitler to contact all these comedians at the time that were known that secretly agree with his Marxist ideal, like William Joyce, like all of these people. And I realized, like, this has all been done before. And this is all actually happening now.
Yeah.
And the propaganda of today is it's also out there, but it's just there's a lack of awareness on what propaganda is. And for example, that trans rainbow flag or the black flag with white letters that says Black Lives Matter, like, that's propaganda. That's not like a sign for their movement or that's not an invitation towards a discourse. You have to look at that as propaganda. And once you study propaganda, you can look at what exists in the dominant mainstream narrative today and call it propaganda.
Sure. Oh, it's everywhere. I mean, one of the things that got me initially when Black Lives Matters it wasn't exactly when it started, but during the George Floyd issue. Yeah. At first I was like, we should protest certain things. And I kind of wanted to stand in solidarity. That was my first thought. And then when I looked into the organization and I saw BLM was really a communist organization, and you see the fist, and you look throughout history when that fist was put up, and then you look at...
That's not a coincidence, my friend.
Oh, no, of course not. And then you look at on their website, BLM, their agenda, one of them was to do away with the nuclear family. And, that's a communist, Marxist
that's
staple.
Insane.
It's a staple. And so, just that alone, if you look at something like that where they're talking about doing away with a family, like obliterating it, which they've already done many ways in the Black community. Around 75% of kids right now growing up don't have a dad.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's already being done, and we see how that's worked out.
They're kicking ass.
Yeah.
They're kicking ass.
It's pretty obvious what's going on. So when I saw that, I'm like, oh. And, they did it in a smart way too, because they tried to say, they made it to where if you didn't support Black Lives Matters, you're a what?
A racist.
A racist. Yeah. It's like, it.
Yeah, of course.
Well,
of course.
Really smart, because it divides people even more, and nobody wants to be called a racist.
Yeah.
And, that was a lot for me to unpack, because it was all of a sudden kind of a dance, and I didn't want to be called a racist. I kind of hit a point where I was like, screw it. I don't care what they think of me, because I know that I'm not that. And, but it was an interesting thing to go through, as a white guy, because all of a sudden a white guy that grew up in a very diverse neighborhood, who was on a black fight team Lit Irvin, who has lived with a black dude for the last almost 9 years, Scotty, Dedrick and I. Dedrick is our business partner. So it's like, I didn't think like that. And I had like an aha moment when I was walking down the street with Dedrick, and I was like, I had the thought, I'm walking down the street with a black man. I'd never thought like that before. I was like, and I told him, I was like, damn, dude, I don't want to think of you as anything but my brother, but that was the programming, the propaganda had actually, got in my head.
Divide and conquer.
Exactly. It's really, really smart.
Yes. This is the essential strategy of collectivism: divide and conquer. And what I'll add is, it's funny. You made me think of this quote by Thomas Sowell. Thomas Sowell says, "What do you call a conservative losing an argument to a liberal?"
What's that?
Racist.
That's fitting these days.
And this is where we're at. Again, if they can't back their stances with data, then they have to use culture, art, or a narrative that can just deem you as racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe who hates the poor. That's all they got.
Yeah, that is that.
Obfuscation. Yes.
That is where we're at, because the debates or arguments, they automatically call you, like I said, with Black Lives Matters, you're a racist. If you don't believe biological men should compete in female sports, you're a transphobe. It's either this or that. And there's a lot of nuance and gray in between there. And I'm super open-minded. I don't want things.
But here's what there is not. Okay, yes, there's nuance and gray, but here's something that is black and white. When you come to a conversation, are you coming with good faith or not? And here's the thing: you either are or you either are not. And the problem with those on what we'll call the radical left once again, is that they do not come to actually reach a solution. They don't want to actually have something resolute with you. They want to win. They want to find a way to strawman you. They want to insult you. They want to denigrate your position and insult your background or something of that sort, right? So it's like, I'm cool with any disagreement if you're coming in with good faith.
Well, but on the other side, because I don't think it's just the left. So I look at some of the comments on my Instagram,
Yeah.
and I don't align with the hate that comes out of the right too towards people. It's like, come on, like that's not what I believe in or stand for.
Yeah, what I don't like about the right is the degree of hypocrisy. That's my problem with the right. But I will say, because I've gone on enough shows where when a person wants to derail and try to do this lowball insult when I'm not even coming at them with animus,
Sure.
they tend to be on the left.
Yeah, well, I guess what I'm saying is that I do think it's both sides, but I also think that what you're talking about is intent. So
Yes.
if someone has a bad intention, then they have a bad intention. We see it more from the left. Here's a thought though. I mean, do we see it more from the left? You're talking about your experience on podcasts. That's that's a good experience. But do we see it more on the left right now because of the algorithm that's feeding us these thoughts? I wonder that a lot because we have our echo chambers.
Maybe.
I mean, we see these vile things, and we know that the propaganda is out there, but is it as much as we think it is? And I'm repulsed by a lot of what goes on. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just trying to be open minded and think, is it propaganda to get us even more divided? Which I do think the algorithm is doing that, and I do think that they've infiltrated our schools and like you're saying, our art. They've done a lot in music. I mean, my God, like you're talking about,
They've
Beyonce
infiltrated everything, man.
Yeah. So yes, it's infiltrated. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. I'm just kind of thinking.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So talk about that as far as you were talking about the art scene, bringing in really good artists, and then you mentioned pedophilia. Like what's that all about?
Well, okay. I don't want to go into conspiracy world here, but I will briefly. Okay, when you look at culture, right? Again, this is a conversation on culture. Who are some of the mainstream stars we can name? Like Sam Smith, Doja Cat, Lil Nas X, Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, these kind of people, right? You'll notice every once in a while they represent themselves with sort of demonic projections that are off-wallish. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Where they actually wear satanic uniforms and in front of Super Bowl performances or
The Weeknd on Starboy where he's got the upside down cross.
100%. So I want your audience to know that this doesn't come from a vacuum. These come from the art world. So a lot of people don't know, but their celebrities are at the top of the fine arts sphere. And most particular is there's a woman by the name of Marina Abramovic. And she's a literal Satanist witch. Dear friends with Hillary Clinton, Jay-Z, has dinner parties with Rothschilds.
The spirit cookings.
She does a lot of spirit cookings.
Yeah.
And she's at the top of the pyramid.
She's about to be the ambassador in Ukraine.
Yes.
Over what was it, like a education secretary?
They want a satanic witch to be one of the dominant influencers for their education program.
That's not conspiracy.
It's not a conspiracy anymore.
Yeah, I mean that's known that that they just put her as ambassador.
So Marina goes further. She's publicly declared that one of her goals is to destroy Christendom.
Really?
To destroy Western social cohesion. She's made that a clear stance. So
if people were to look it up, they can.
Oh, they'll find even worse than that. They'll find her doing installation art, which is, by the way, bullshit. Installation art, like, what is that? Like, it's basically like an excuse to do some kind of degenerate performance of, like, as you mentioned, spirit cooking. But is basically like pretending like they're drinking children's blood or adrenochrome rituals. All these things are like out there.
So, Warren, can you pull that up? I want people to see this because I have seen a lot of the pictures.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's kind of hard for people to believe. But
Yeah. This sounds outlandish, but literally look up Marina Abramovic, and she actually has a school called the Abramovic Institute. I met 2 of the graduates, and they hated me.
what was their worldview?
So I was at the Corcoran Gallery of Art in D.C. I went to the Corcoran Ballroom, and there's these 2 girls dressed in all black. Both have long black hair. They look like they're trying to be like her doppelganger at this point. And this is her art school. She basically is teaching the next generation of satanic artists. And, basically they were there to meet some of the artists, up and coming undergrad artists. And, they were chatting with each of us individually because this is when I was in art school. And when it was my turn, I basically told them my interest on trying to revitalize Christian imagery and masculine aesthetics honorably, because we have very bad masculine examples today. So I was basically throwing it. That's what I want to be a progenitor of. And they hated it. They're like, it was almost like they had an accent. They weren't American born, but it was almost as if like, how dare you, the way they were talking to me. And I was like, ooh, I got a very creepy, dark energy vibe from them.
Yeah, so
that's all I can say for that. Yeah.
But have you, the Satanist stuff?
Yeah.
Like, do we know that that's her school, or is that just kind of like rumors?
Oh, if she's not even really like hiding it, she's friends with the person by the name of John of God, and they do like really dark rituals together, and it's all
John of God,
recorded.
the guy that got indicted in Brazil.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's the one who like amputates bodies as a part of his art to heal, as he called himself a healer.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a real healer like you. But yeah, she's friends with people who are into transhumanism and I mean, all of these are basically different terms for Satanism. But she doesn't hide anything.
Right.
None of it's even hidden because she's so connected and powerful, And this is why, like, in a way, I boldly call myself the anti-Abramovic.
Yeah.
Because what I'm trying to do is the opposite of her, through classical training techniques. But this woman gets world-class tours. She gets to show everywhere. She just started a new exhibition series where there's basically a lineup of nude bodies, and people have to, and they're so close together, so that the people have to walk through them and get touched by nude bodies. That's her current artwork.
What's that art called?
I can't remember the title, but this is the kind of stuff she does. It's no class, nothing to do with paying tribute. There's no wisdom in it. And yeah, she's at the top. There's other artists, there's Maggie Geerlings, Kim Noble. There's a bunch of artists who are who get all this exposure and patronage who are dark. But she's definitely the most known, so I like to mention her.
Oh yeah, pull up Warren. There's one with where she's got a skull.
Yeah, just look up Marina Abramovic spirit cooking, and you'll see you'll see a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, click that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's those are her Hillary Clinton days.
Oh yeah, that was when WikiLeaks released those emails. She was in the email with Podesta. Yeah, she was.
And it's crazy how no one's talking about any of this now, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's like you talk about Pizzagate, which I don't know anything about, honestly, like as far as the details of it. But it's an immediate conspiracy theory. I knew that she was part of it somehow. I remember seeing her name in those headlines back in the day. But
yeah, she's basically the way the Thule Society had, like, again, I'm doing a modern parallel here with what the Nazis did. The Thule Society had people like Dietrich Eckart, Rudolf Hess, Hitler, all of these like creative, influential people. Somebody had to curate all of them coming together, right? And having these weird practices. That's her like real job. Like, she's like a curator to bring all these people together and do these rituals.
Interesting. Does she talk about being a Satanist, or is it like a kind of like a hidden thing? She won't acknowledge it.
I mean, I think that right there shows you all you need to know.
Yeah, with the sharp knife cut deeply into the middle finger of
Yeah,
your left hand.
when
Eat
you
the
actually
pain.
see her art, it's almost like she's trying like a female Anton LaVey, you know? Although he had this whole intellectual side of it being, he intellectualized it better than she probably would, but um yeah, I think she's like a witch. I think she's an evil witch.
And now she's going to
Yeah.
be in charge. Let's see, Warren, pull up what was what's her ambassador position? What does that say? Oh, the headline.
I mean, it's for Zelensky, right?
Asked Marina to be
Yeah,
ambassador for
there you go.
Ukraine, but there was something to do with education.
Yeah, it is something to do with education because they're always targeting our kids. That's always a goal. Yep. There you go.
Rebuilding schools. Wow. I mean,
The goal is always our kids.
it's
You
so
know, so
wild. It's so wild. Why would you have that person in charge of rebuilding your schools in Ukraine? I mean, it's so blatant and out there how wacky it is. Even if it were all not true, let's just say that. Why
yeah.
would you put her in charge?
Exactly.
Of,
Okay. I'm going to go with this train of logic. Let's say none of this is true.
Yeah.
Okay. Even though the whole art world in New York City knows. All right. Let's say none of this is true. A person who has a bloody animal head and adorns herself in such a way that, looks like a necromancer. How are you going to put that person at the seat of power, right? But it's
in charge
because
of the
kids.
yeah, the
Yeah.
education.
Yeah.
What's she going to teach them? What's going to be her agenda? More art, like
Well, you're gonna scare me when I think about that because I just start thinking of like adrenochrome or something like that. So, I don't know, but that's
yeah,
fucked up shit.
it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild, and most people wouldn't know who she was. I had run across a lot.
By
of
the
her
way,
stuff
that's
years
that's
ago.
intentional. Like this is what I'm saying. Like if you look at like celebrities, they venerate people who don't have the million of followers, and they have a different type of veneration.
Yeah,
They have a smaller circle of huge amount of elites. It's a very different thing. It's like, like Epstein didn't have Instagram.
Right.
You see what I'm getting at? She doesn't either.
right.
Like there's people who get to play God
Yeah,
in the dark sense, right? And those people are worshipped by controlled celebrities.
did you see the Balenciaga stuff months ago?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you see what I posted?
I think so because somebody sent me. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, like I started all that viral shit.
Really, that was you.
Oh yeah, it was pretty wild, and a lot of the stuff that she does reminds me of the pictures that those people had of the children, and they call it art, but
Yeah.
it was just like this guy. And I actually didn't even post all the stuff that all
Yeah,
the
I
screenshots
found
that I
I
had.
actually went deep into that rabbit hole. There's some disgusting stuff, especially with that one model.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean
yeah,
that whole Balenciaga thing really, and then if you look at the tape on the table of the shoot, it's Baal, Baal.
Yep.
Oh, actually, Warren has it up there. Yeah, I mean that was on the tape of the shoot. So it's not Balenciaga, it's Balenciaga. And
Now, why do you think they're using kids?
oh, I don't know. I mean, they're evil.
It symbolizes human sacrifice
Interesting.
because if you can hurt kids, you'll do anything evil. It represents complete control, and here's what I'll say: not a lot of people can see and believe in God today. But if you go deep into the literature and if you actually open your eyes to what's actually going on, you will see the devil.
Oh yeah,
And that's why the deeper a man goes, the more religious he ends up usually becoming. This is why. Because evil and its lasciviousness is out and about now. And that's why they can do things like put Marina Abramovic as the director of a building schools, as an ambassador. Like,
Ambassador to build schools.
that's insane.
That's bold.
Yeah, very bold.
That is bold. Pull up what
Yeah.
Baal is. We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
And or who Baal is. So this is on the photo shoot, the Balenciaga photo shoot that went viral with the children.
Yeah, child sacrifice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Baal was, my understanding, the god of child sacrifice.
You remember when Alex Jones went into the Bohemian Grove
Yeah.
and they were
They had a thing in Moloch.
burning a child effigy
Yep.
to Moloch, right? So Moloch and Baal, Beelzebub, they're all sort of the same. They all have the same etymological root, but the idea is of sacrificing children, for their own self-aggrandizement. That's sort of the demonic ritual that's been done.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, you see the video of Alex going in and, with them having the burning Moloch, and,
Crazy.
it's, there's so many signs right now, and not just for the child trafficking and child sacrifice, but just of the, evil Satanism that is going on. And, Abramovich is one example where they're just very, very bold with it now. And there's so many things like that, people are like, oh, it's just a coincidence. Oh, it's just a coincidence. And I can't even think of all of them right now because they happen so much now. You get I think that's part of the propaganda, because you get kind of numb to it all. I mean, nobody's talking about
the boiling frog.
Yeah, we're the boiling frogs right now.
We're right now used to a certain temperature that we should not be even tolerating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's getting pretty hot. It's getting pretty hot. You think about right now in society, at least in our lifetime, it has never been this divided. And it seems like it's by design. It seems like when what I see as an objective truth is put out, the other side will say, well, that's not the truth. They've flipped what the truth is, and people are parroting these things. You talked about, getting canceled out of the art scene, but you've also made some comments about the trans issues that are going on right now with biological men, competing in women's sports or in the locker rooms, or children getting those surgeries early or being on hormones early.
Right.
Like, do you think that's part of the whole?
Yeah, I mean, it's all Satanism to me. I use that blanket term. Now I will say, like, I got in trouble, or what cemented me being ostracized from the art world was the fact that I focused on masculine art.
Mm-hmm.
That's what sort of cemented it. And a lot of people will think, like, why is that? What? Because you have to look at the prism of the art world. And so me getting kicked out was first like a social reason, because none of us could really see eye to eye. I just kept burning those bridges. But what really cemented it was the fact that I decided to really focus on revitalizing biblical imagery and masculine imagery. And and the reason why I do so is because I believe that honorable patriarchal traditional masculinity needs to sort of make its way back for our culture to survive.
Sure.
That is my belief. And I will say, it's not a coincidence that the most canceled figures of our time all represent unapologetic masculinity. Donald Trump, Andrew Tate, Ye to a degree as well, because he's a rapper, and the attraction to hip hop in the first place is the freedom to be hyper masculine. That's why hip hop is popular. So why are they canceled? Because they represent men being themselves, without apologizing in a public square that deems any sense of masculinity as toxic. So for me, I always was aware of this because everything's so gynocentric today. And that's why I thought I want my art to focus on benevolent, honorable, idyllic masculinity. That's why I paint Musashi and in these warriors and my desires, because I think it's been underemphasized and I'm sort of overemphasizing it as like a correction.
Hmm.
And that's why I obsess with this sort of imagery. I think it's lacking today. So I'd rather put that type of art out into the world.
Gotcha.
You
What
know.
I mean, you know,
But the left didn't like that. I mean, not just, I mean, the galleries didn't like that I was focusing on that subject matter. They just liked my style, like, keep painting tigers and we like your brush technique and your mark making, and people like it. And it's almost like using my my art without like the message and the
Mhm.
weight. But I wanted to sort of be a warrior in the realm of ideas with my brush, like putting down the sword and picking up the brush.
Sure.
That's sort of like Ronin-esque feeling. I wanted to do that, you know.
Yeah, but what do you think though? Like, because I mean, the term toxic masculinity, it just kind of gets thrown around right
Yeah.
now. I think that there is, I don't even like to call it masculinity that's bad. I think there's bad people that do bad things, but I think that the design seems to be they want to make the masculine so gross
You want to demonize it.
that they, bring
I don't
people.
believe toxic masculinity is a thing, to be honest. I think the absence of masculinity is what is toxic, because I think the more masculine a person is, the more he wants to protect his wife, the more he wants to love his kids, the more he wants to provide resources for them. I think more masculinity means more love, provisioning, and protection and guidance. I think the absence is where you have these like pseudo little beta males who compensate by doing destructive things because that's how they compensate. So I don't even believe that term. I think that's just the way they stigmatize people. Um, and actually, it's funny because often when people project these terms onto the world, that's what they are. So when they're
Mm,
saying we live under a patriarchy, I'm like, bitch, I argue we live under a matriarchy, personally, you know? And I think this is all projection. And we live in a cult of feminism today. I believe that the West lives under that cult. And let me make this very clear, because I know a lot of your audience is probably like, who is this Asian guy who sounds sexist now? Uh, I, I'm totally an egalitarian. Women should have the right to do whatever they want to do. But my point is that the archetypal spirit we live under, in other words, like you said, everyone repeats about the patriarchy and toxic masculinity, right? And it's because they understand there's the archetype of the wise king, but the contrast is the archetype of the high chair tyrant. Like the drunken abusive dad,
mhm.
the negative manifestation of masculinity. But nobody talks about the negative feminine, which is the overprotective mother. And that is the spirit we've been living under. Because, for example, the medical apartheid we just went through with the vaccine mandates and the mask requirements, that's all the overprotective mother.
Mm,
Because an evil force that's saying, I'm doing this because mommy loves you. It's for your protection. It's for your good. Stay inside. Don't have fun. It's
yeah,
because we love you. And then I'm going to bring in state power for your protection.
yeah.
That is the spirit of the overprotective mother. And that is why uh, I believe our world is very gynocentric right now, especially the West. So all we like to do in a dominant way, we're allowed to casually lambast masculinity and fathers and denigrate them all day. And the reason why we can even do that is because we live in a feminized world. Because the moment I say one negative thing about the collective feminine psyche, what happens? Everyone attacks you.
Of course, of
You
course.
know?
Yeah, it triggers the mob.
Yeah,
Uh,
100%.
it's interesting what's going on with feminism right now. I just ordered uh, a bunch of books on queer theory and feminism just because I want to really understand where we're at in society right now, or at least their way of thinking. How are they thinking about this? And I guess we're in the fourth wave of feminism,
Mm,
and it's based off of queer theory. And so it actually, to me, people think of feminism and women's rights,
yeah.
although
We're way past that.
it's supposed to be about equality.
Yeah,
But to me, modern feminism takes away the rights of women
they do.
because you talk about like men dominating women. If they were really concerned with men dominating women, why would they have biological men going in competing in women's sports or having biological men going and being in office? and that identify as women. By the way, biological women that identify as women, going and competing in sports. Uh, it's just men dominating women. If that's
Yeah.
it, and it's weak men, because those men can't compete in general on the level that other men can. I mean, they got Bruce Jenner, which is a lot to unpack.
Caitlyn, by the
Yeah,
way.
Caitlyn Jenner. Sorry, but they got they got Bruce to become Caitlyn, and there's obviously some stuff going on.
Yeah, the woman of the year is a man.
That's my point. Men really are the best women. I mean, that just proves.
and also, like, I think the most important factor of what you're saying is that, like, they make women who want to be caretakers and mothers feel like losers, because they say, no, you're supposed to kick those men's asses. And my problem with this whole gender craze is that, like, the feminists are getting equality and identicality confused. Like, they don't understand, like, back then women understood, like, we can be complementary.
Mhm.
But today they're literally trying to get rid of men almost, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, we're way beyond the egalitarian feminist conversation, because also women are kicking all their asses when it comes to college representation, income for people, for men in the 20s versus women in the 20s. Men are getting their asses kicked.
Well,
we're not in a good place.
I'm all for equal
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah,
I really
me too.
am. I mean, I'm all for women getting the pay.
Yeah,
the
no one's
same
arguing
as
that.
men the same time. I know.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
my point is, I'm for those things. But and that's what I think a lot of the people think that this is about. Like, oh, women aren't paid
Yeah, it's
equally.
not.
It's like, actually, that's been debunked many times. In those studies, they're not working as much. There's a lot of things that come into play there. But yeah, in their 20s right now, women are making more money than men. And guess what? If they're working
Yeah.
harder, by the way,
Yeah.
I'm all for it. If they're the best person for the job, they should be making more money than men.
I think that a big reason for that is there is right now also there's been a crisis in masculinity.
Yeah.
A lot of men are simply checking out for multiple reasons, but the first thing is that, hypergamy is on steroids. So that, in conjunction to the fact that a big reason why we do what we do is for sexual gratification, as males, right? And the dating market has become the situation where, as women's standards go up, more men are ostracized. So a lot of men are just simply having no more incentive to go forward. And this is happening with millennials and definitely Zoomers.
What do you mean with women's standards going up? What does that mean?
So hypergamy is this idea that's basically proven that women date up, and and men date down. That's the basic idea of it. And I've studied pretty extensively the decline of civilizations, and I would argue we are kind of in a decline. I'm not saying that the knell of doom is around the corner and it's burning skies and pandemonium. I call it first world hell world. So here we are in this beautiful estate, bridges full of goodies, AC, nice equipment, but spiritually, the collective mass is very zombified romantically. Like, we're sort of calloused in this way. So I call it first world hell world. And what I look at is, when you study every empire that has fallen, there's 3 stages, Ed. Okay, so we're in between stage 2 and 3. The first stage is the death of God, or the lack of reverence for a higher order. And Friedrich Nietzsche writes about this in The Gay Science, when he said that God is dead. Everyone's heard of this sentiment. Jordan Peterson has been talking about it on stage, reanimating this important lesson. And once that happens, you sort of are castrated from a sense of a higher order, and your reverence is gone now. Look how irreverent we are. We don't have reverence today, right? So that's the first stage. And once that happens, the moral structure above is sort of castigated. So what happens next? The next stage is female sexual liberation. And I specify female sexual liberation, not male, because what happens is there's a guy named J.D. Unwin. He wrote his magnum opus called Sex and Culture. And he studied 86 different cultures through 5,000 years of recorded history. And he found that with the Sumerians, the Babylonians, the Athenians, the Romans, what they all had in common is, once we give up our belief in God, women become sexually liberated. And once they're sexually liberated, men no longer want to fight to maintain their social cohesion.
Interesting.
We lose our purpose, our cohesion. And then the third stage, and we're in between stage 2 and 3 right now. That's why we have all these red pill podcasts, by the way, or feminist porn videos. It's because we're trying to backtrack, but we're in between stage 2 and 3. And the last one is desecration of beauty and rewriting history. And Roger Scruton writes about this in his book Beauty. So basically, we're right at the stage where we're going to start seeing some serious negative return for this widespread promiscuous whoredom. And I'm not trying to be a hater or anything. I'm just saying from studying, reading all the literature, this is what's going to happen, I think.
Kind of like Rome.
Yeah, just like Rome.
Yeah. I didn't know that the women...
Keep in mind how Rome fell apart as well. You know? I'm sorry to interrupt, by the way. But great empires, they fall from the inside out. Like when Rome fell, they were having orgies and they had everyone had like their own wine cellar. You know, they had like, there's wealth when Rome fell. And, you know, the Ottoman Empire was being led by a 23-year-old general at the time. And how did he take down an army that was literally 15 times larger? You know why? Because they didn't care to defend it at that point because they were so obstreperous from the inside. Mm-hmm. So, of course, the walls will fall.
Yeah, I didn't know that throughout history that the women had gotten super promiscuous. I mean,
every time. Yeah.
They had to deal with pregnancy, though. I mean, the sexual liberation this time was, you know, really with birth control, right?
Yeah. So we ours is even worse, actually.
I mean, yeah, because they, you know,
yeah,
it's
and again, I'm not slut shaming, whatever you call it. I'm simply looking at the fact that, look, you do the basic calculus. You just do the basic arithmetic here. If you're looking at a guy who, you know, it's like, how can I put this? It's like, if nothing is pure anymore, right? If nothing is pure, and I'm talking about like female virginity and being chaste. Mm-hmm. If nothing is pure, then in a way, nothing is sacred, right? And if nothing is sacred, why should I care if some unassimilatable culture sends us men and takes them? Because I don't feel connected to them because it's not something I want to protect in the first place anymore. Like I'm sussing this out as I'm talking to you, but that's sort of the gut feeling that the common man has today, right? So I'm just
so they're just feeling like the common man feels like they can't get women, or it's not even worth it.
I wouldn't say like a lot of these movements like MGTOW and all these things. I'm doing my own thing. I would say a lot of that is cope. I think
what, I don't know anything about these movements. What movements?
Okay. So there's all these groups like this Manosphere content, red pill, blue pill. There's all these like philosophies about, you know, trying to gain women and all these things in the internet community. Most of those
trying to gain, like dating. Is it like dating?
Pick stuff? Up all of this stuff.
Okay, got it.
Most of it is LARPing.
What does that mean?
Oh, it's like they're acting or they're coping. Like, like for example, like I am not a tradcon guy. For example, like I'm not into red pill any of this stuff, and I'm saying this because most of that is a disguise. So I wouldn't say that they're giving up because, you know, they can't get women or something. I think the women don't want them. I think that's the first thing. I think, like for example, people who call themselves tradcon.
What does that mean?
There's a movement on Twitter, especially called tradcon, like traditional conservative.
Okay, tradcon.
So,
okay.
Yeah. And they like to say, yeah, the reason why, you know, I have this belief is because I'm like a conservative Christian warrior, but actually they're just unfuckable losers that lean right.
Got it.
You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
So it's a great way to cope their incel-dem. Or when they say I'm a dark triad.
What's that mean?
See, these are terms that like this just goes to show you that you have a life.
I have no idea what any of this shit means.
So dark triad in the red pill space is like basically a person who has like Machiavellian characteristics, and that you know, it's like it's different costumes they wear, but these are just more ugly incels who are socially inept. Like all of these, the whole space, red pill, manosphere, like I'm starting to realize that it's all a way for men to just flex on each other.
Interesting.
That's what I've come to see. But just to tie it all together, I think that men are simply just checking out because they're seeing that it's just too much it's too much effort to even play the game. Um, and for the value of what? It's like I think it's called hoflation. Like,
Hoflation?
yeah, it's hoflation.
What is that?
Hoflation is the fact that men today, you and I, have to work 10 times harder
Mhm.
than our grandfathers did.
Mhm.
For a woman 100 times worse.
Oh, really? Is that what it's interesting?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess
Again, I'm talking about the average man for a reason.
sure. No,
Yeah,
I'm thinking too though because and I don't know about any of all that stuff. But
yeah.
from a dating standpoint, my experience is, let's say, a man that's 35, 40 years old. You generally don't date someone 35 or 40 years old if you haven't.
Yeah, sure.
If you're not already married or something like that, don't
Yeah,
already have
yeah.
a girlfriend. And let's say you're dating someone 25 to 30, a little younger. The men in their 20s, I'm 42 now, and I've got an awesome girlfriend, but
Yeah.
the
Congrats.
oh, thanks. Yeah, she's really cool. But the men, the competition now is so weak. These men are just a bunch of little betas.
But they're giving. This is my point. They're giving up altogether.
Yeah, because they're betas. They're being little bitches.
Well, that's half true.
Okay.
What I will say is that 80% of women want 20% of men, anyways.
Wait, 80% of
80% of women want 20% of men.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah. So
if that's the case, then why don't you become the man that women want?
So there's a harsh truth in it, and here's what I'll agree
I've
with.
always felt like, not get any woman that I wanted, but I've always felt like I could do just fine. If someone,
I love that.
If someone didn't like me for whatever reason, I'm like, it's more like, as far as not necessarily like dating wise, but if they had a problem, I'm nice to everybody. I try to be open-minded. I stand my ground, but so I've always thought, well, why, we should be able to talk to anybody.
Sure.
So I'm just curious to see, like, what's the other side? Let me hear the other side.
So what I want to agree with is that, yeah, if you're in the corner sulking and acting like a little doomer bitch, then you're just an idiot. That I agree with. But what I will say is that the standards of, again, we're talking about hypergamy, it's only getting harsher and more worse. So you get to a point where I would say we're at a point where, if a guy isn't, all those characteristics that women want, they'll be like, oh, I want him to be whatever, like 6 foot tall, 6 figures.
Those guys look like a 0.5% of the population.
This is what I'm saying. But those are the guys women want.
Those are the.
But it's becoming more and more evident. Where I would say, like, even girls who are Zoomers, like literally like 18, 20-year-old girls, they just get DM'd by those guys now. So basically, we're at this point where
they get DM'd by which guys?
The winners.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like basically men who have a plethora of option, they're just going through women. And then the guys who are working on themselves, they have, either they get it together by 35 and now they're ready to go.
Sure.
Or they're just they just give up. And I guess what I'm saying is a lot of men, they don't delay gratification and they don't have the incentive to go forward with that today. And I think it's sad, but I think that's another part of the equation, because we talked about all of these dark forces going on today. And I think that one of the ultimate tools of Satan is actually utilizing feminism in this way to make men no longer have incentive. So I think this is a part of that equation.
Yeah, and we're talking about masculinity. I feel like, and we've talked about how they're almost emasculating guys, men, and the public facing idea for women is that they don't want a masculine man, but the reality behind it is they absolutely do.
Sure.
And all of these women that you're talking about that like that, at least say 20% of men, 80% of women like 20% of men,
All dating app data
I would
shows
bet
that, yeah.
80% of those, 90% of those men were masculine and not a bunch of betas. And, you know, all those, like, when I hear those numbers, I kind of laugh because, like, whatever. I don't even know about any of that shit.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not looking to be single. I got a great girlfriend.
I'm just trying to relate with like everyday man, right?
Yeah, everyday man needs to step up, though. That's the thing. Everyday man right now, you know, to me, they don't act like what I would consider a man. And, you know, it's not, you know, it's in many ways when I see them, like I see a lot of men like whining and, oh, this isn't fair. It reminds me of the left whining.
Yeah, maybe. Again, if they're sitting in a corner sulking, then yeah, they're wasting their breath.
Sure.
I agree with that, but I try to empathize a little bit just because what I see is when they look for mentors,
Mm.
you know, or when they look for guidance, obviously, first thing that comes to my mind is go to a fucking martial art dojo. There's things you can do,
Sure.
right? But there's people who are so wayward that when they do look, all they hear is man up.
Mm.
And they're not like and they're approaching it innocently.
Which they would say is toxic masculinity. Go ahead.
Yeah, but you know, but it's just I'm just trying to predict based on a little bit of unwind, but also based on things that I'm seeing. I think it's gonna get worse, and I think we're gonna get to a point where we are a more open and shamelessly polygamous society, where basically it's like a couple. You know, there's gonna be men who have multiple girlfriends and maybe even multiple families, whilst there's gonna be all of these men who they build up resentment and anger towards the culture. I think we're just headed towards that way.
Sure.
Yeah, and you know, it's look. If I had a red button right here, Ed, I can just push it, and it cuts off, you know, the welfare state and you know, enforces monogamy and like all the circumstantial stuff that you want, so that there's more pair bonding to create families across the board. I would do it, but I don't have that button, and this conversation is being avoided. You know, and I don't. It looks really bad. That's all I'm saying.
So what's your, are you in a relationship? Do you get married? Like
I'm single.
You're single. Is what's your experience like dating right now? How old are you?
I'm 32.
32. Okay. So what's your experience like, you know, dating right now?
So I just, you know, I broke off with one girl. It's been maybe 6 months now. I met her in New York. I've just been dating girls. You know, I have a preference for a monogamous relationship. I'm more of a romantic.
Sure.
But yeah, I've been just dating women, and I just haven't felt, you know, convinced to make a family
To
or
settle
anything of
or
that sort.
something.
Yeah,
No,
not
that's
at
cool.
all,
I was like that for a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
my 20s, gosh, I dated this one girl from 22 to 26, and I was super young. Thought we were gonna get married, you know, and
It's a long time, man. 22 to 26.
oh
40.
yeah,
Yeah, I was with her for 3 years. Yeah, I met her after she's a ballerina,
okay,
and she was performing at the Kennedy
oh cool,
in DC. And then one of my friends, he's connected with the director. He's like, I'll take you to the back. You can meet her.
nice.
And then, so I just took her out. But yeah, that was fun. but you get to a point where you're like, all right, well, you know, it's like we're in a different time. It's funny because I have these traditional values, but I'm also seeing that the world has changed so much. Like we're not in, you know, I guess I'm looking for romance in 2023 hookup culture in a way. There's that element too. That's how people in my generation feel quite a bit. Unless they grew up away from cities, they have the highest percentage of that. But that stacks up better when they're like in their early 20s and they're away from cities, and you have a more chance of meeting somebody who's who may be more interested in pair bonding and creating a family. But I grew up in cities my whole life. So even though I hold these values close to my heart, the dating market that I'm interacting with was you know, more about the fun.
Sure.
You know, which was fun. But eventually you know, it's you get zombified eventually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt about it.
Yeah.
I mean, as the you know, that's been, kind of my experience in a way, as far
Yeah,
as
yeah,
just not finding the right person for a long
yeah.
time. That's okay too. I mean,
And again, I'm a total romantic. I'm a fucking artist.
yeah,
Like there's nothing I enjoy more than traveling with a beautiful woman and looking at old art.
interesting.
Like looking at like hieroglyphics in like Egypt, or going to the Vatican and seeing marble statues. That kind of adventure,
Yeah,
and you're with a beautiful woman. That's such a high for me. Like I love that.
yeah.
You know? And but they tend to be like 2-3 years max.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's kind of finding the
You know?
person, man. That's part of
Yeah, yeah,
dating,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
especially you're right. It's a different time, different culture.
Yeah.
You know, generally, I found, the older, the more in my 30s that I got, um, you know, I kind of want to start settling down a little bit more, but I wasn't attached to it. I'm like, oh,
Sure,
whatever.
sure.
And then I think, when you kind of meet somebody, it just kind of happens. The relationship I've been in now isn't that long. It's like 9
Well, I'll
months,
tell you
but
what the smartest guys are doing. That the smartest people who see all this the feminization of the West, what they tend to do is they go overseas, because the feminism is uh we're talking about the toxic feminism. That we're toxic. We're not talking about egalitarian values. Um, but where the spirit of not shaming a woman for being a woman,
mhm,
that's still exists overseas. That's what a lot of the guys who did not have the privilege of growing up in a smaller town, or who grew up in cities,
sure.
creatures like us in a way, right? Like the smart ones, they tend to go overseas. There's a movement called passport bros. And then the idea is that, like, well, there's women who have not been like infiltrated by this I hate men ideology, and they just go overseas where they're much more amicable and pleasant. That's what a lot of them are doing. I'm not saying I do, but that's what I've seen work for some of my
Sure.
friends. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the whole it, it shouldn't be seen as a "I hate men" philosophy. I mean, I know Nashville is not like that. There's, at least in this, let's say, the social scene of people that are going out that are, single per se.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I would say it's not like that.
I like Nashville. This is what I'm saying. It's definitely like this in New York City, more so Lower East Side, where I had a concentration of art shows.
Mhm.
There is a view that looks at any man who either has money or stature or any type of flex as he stole that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, crazy.
No, but when you start debating or talking to those people, they have no arguments. It's just like this. They really show up to me as kind of dumb, uh, because they can't go back and forth and have a conversation with you about it because they haven't really thought about it. They're like, I'm
Hmm.
taking this position with no thought. I hate men.
Yeah.
They're just, and then you try to talk to them and they get offended that you're even questioning the hate and the bigotry that they're bringing at you.
Hmm.
I mean, that's happened to me, it actually happened to me recently.
That's why I
Uh,
left.
yeah, that's it.
That's why I left New York, to still woke DC, but way less woke,
Yeah.
because I was getting tired of that.
I think the most
You
important
know.
thing though is actually holding your ground. For me, like whenever I hear bigoted, remarks, especially towards anybody, I don't like it.
Hmm.
I don't even like it towards trans. I don't think that, you know, we can have conversations that are logical, but I don't think we should hate any group just because they're a group. Trans, woman, man, black, white, whatever. I don't think that we should hate people for or just dislike them because of who they are, like what their uh, nationality is, anything. I don't think that's the right way to be.
I believe in free speech.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I absolutely believe in free
Yeah.
speech. But you take these ideas like um, the women hating men now, that idea, and thinking that that's somehow going to help whenever we hate different groups, like if you look throughout history, it's been they pit these groups against each other, and it's just a same side of a different coin.
Hmm.
So I mean, it's just that's what we're seeing over and over again, and they don't really have any arguments for them.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah. Again, like, and I want to make this clear, like, I'm not interjecting this into the ethos. This is like when I can sit from a bird's eye view and I can see this is what's happening in the culture right now.
Sure.
right now, like there's a book by Christina Hoff Sommers. She wrote what was it but the War Against Boys, I believe. And she was a feminist back in the day. Where she was like, you know, fighting for women being allowed to go to
Hmm.
college back then. And then she got two sons. And she realized what you described. It's flipped.
Hmm.
And now the boys are being penalized in the same manner. And to me that was very it was enlightening hearing a woman who actually was like fighting for the rights of women saying that how now it's on the other side.
Well, yeah, it has been flipped. I mean, I used to
Yeah.
support the LGBTQ plus. Well, I think that's all of them right now.
Yeah,
Community.
whatever. Yeah.
I supported gay marriage before it was popular. I mean, Obama and Hillary Clinton didn't support it, and you know, I thought that they were being attacked unfairly. That was my view. But now I see them as the bullies. Back then, I saw them getting bullied, and now I see them as the bullies because they're
Yeah.
using their
I'm happy you say that
yeah.
because you should be allowed to. This is my point. Like, we should be allowed to have conversations on anything,
Yeah.
right? It should be an open communication. And yeah, I mean, to me, that's very obvious. But you just said one of the sacred cows you can't
What's
say.
that?
What you just said, you're not supposed to say that in the dominant narrative that we live in.
Oh, that they're
That
but it's
they
it's
are,
pretty
yeah,
clear, and
yeah,
I wish there were
yeah.
another group that wasn't, because LGBTQ plus.
You know what I always say? I'm not a homophobe. I'm a homo bored. I don't give a shit. But they keep putting it in my face, so this is what I'll say. I never cared about the issues actually because I used to have an art student in Adams Morgan in Washington D.C. before I went to New York when I tried to make my career in D.C. And I remember there was the Women's March, right? This is during Trump's first in, right? So everyone's rabid and angry. I went to my studio to paint, and I had 2 floors. I was upstairs painting, and I heard all these like shouting and all this stuff. I'm like, whatever. I'm just gonna ignore it. Put my stereo music up loud. Then I go outside, take a little break from painting, and there was a gay section of the march, like a bunch of gay people who got together, right? And in my head, I'm like, all right, I don't care, right? But then I look to my left, and there's a little kid, and he just like this. And I look at what he's looking at, and there's a float with these 2 guys wearing leather and assless chaps, like
Mhm.
making out and dancing with each other.
Yeah.
And on one hand, I'm like, listen, there's also decency.
Sure.
So if I point that out, which I did, I was being called a homophobe for that.
Sure.
I'm like, if there was a straight couple doing that, I would be disgusted as well because kids don't need to see that. But it seems that when I pointed out that a gay couple was doing this, it was enough for this animus to come at me so aggressively.
Yeah.
And I realized, okay, this is one of their sacred cows right there.
Well, I think there's a balance. I think there's a balance.
Balance of leather.
Oh, no. No, I mean, as far as, for a long time, gay people were attacked and weren't part of society and weren't seen as equal. For a long time, they were bullied. Um, and, I always see that wrong. I see when people are bullying other people as wrong. I've been sticking up for people
Of
my whole
course.
life.
Yeah, you're a fighter.
Fighting bullies.
Yeah.
I don't like it. You know, but it has moved to where now I see them as the bullies. I see how they treat people. I see the mobs that pile on. And whereas, before probably, being a fighter, being masculine and supporting the LGBT community at the time, uh, that wasn't the popular thing to do. But now it's switched, and it's so interesting to me because it's the same thing. It's just they're on the other side now, and they're the ones that attack. And I'm like, oh, y'all are the bullies now. So now I'm gonna stand up against you as well. If
The dominant narrative is against you.
yeah,
White people are evil. Men are patriarchal pigs.
yes,
Gay people deserve reparations. Like you're a straight white man.
yeah,
So the dominant narrative is against you.
It is right now. It is right now. It's pretty clear.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I mean, I've been fighting my whole life, and I
Yeah.
see what's going on. And if anybody that is being intellectually honest, they see what's going on, and
Clown world.
the amount of bigotry and racism just across the board when it comes to those that used to be, let's call them oppressed. I don't like to use those terms, but let's call them oppressed for a minute. Those that use those terms, they're now just kind of attacking white masculine men, and they want you to
Yes.
be beta, and it's just bigotry and hatred.
And actually, that action itself, that is sexist to men.
Yeah,
That is racist to white people.
of course.
Like literally, it's they're doing what they say you're doing.
Yes,
You know?
No, it's obvious though.
Yeah, they need to read some Young.
No, yeah,
Literally, yeah.
it's obvious what they're doing, but you just gotta know that it's not true,
Mhm.
and stand up for what you believe, and
And that's why
be a
these
good person.
conversations need to be more normalized.
Like, yeah, exactly. Well, and what about being a good person? Like, I don't believe in any of the bullshit where it's the white patriarchy or all of that, or it's this group's fault. It's like, I would do good for a black person just like I would do for any white person. I would do good for any trans person just as I would for any white person. It doesn't matter to me, those labels. And I think that what's got me is I thought that it was pretty much we were aligned in the idea that we shouldn't be judged by the color of our skin, for instance, by the content of our character. Like MLK said, that's how I grew up thinking like that. And yeah, I've just realized the last 3 or 4 years that the
Like
modern
they're judging you by the color of your
I'm
skin
like,
and the
gosh,
content,
listen, it's
rather
like,
than the content of the character. Yeah.
like, well, I guess MLK is irrelevant now, according to them. His ideas, because he wasn't for that. So it's hypocritical, for those that are attacking, white people.
Yeah.
It's the same bigotry as if they were attacking black people or if they were attacking the other groups just because of physical characteristics.
100%.
Yeah. And normalizing the conversations, I mean, it's a dance because people, I don't think they're not able to hear it without jumping to conclusions. And I think the algorithms are really pushing that. I mean, I get called a Trump supporter all the time, and I'm not a Trump supporter.
Hmm.
I like some of the things he did,
Yeah.
but I got called a right-wing Trump supporter and a left-wing libtard in the same week on a different posts.
Really?
But that's interesting. People jump to
what a
conclusions.
combo.
Oh yeah, it's like that's kind of a compliment. It's like thank you.
Yeah.
But society just jumps to those conclusions where I'm not aligned with bigotry.
right.
It's not. I don't believe in that. I think that's actually the problem when we put people in these groups and we use all the identity politics.
You're an independent thinker.
Oh yeah,
And this is this is a challenge because we do live in polarizing times where things seem to be only getting more antithetical and the tribalism is only accelerating. So it's interesting because I do often wonder, like, yeah, maybe there's a tribe I would rather have window, and that's kind of where I'm at because I used to call myself a conservative. This is like back in the day too, like especially when I was supporting Trump at that time, and I'm still pro-Trump, but I was now I'm at the point once I saw all this hypocrisy on the right and how they couldn't get together and how they were so uninvolved in the cultural front for the most part. I'm now like this anarcho-capitalist kind of guy, something of that sort,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been that before, and sometimes I go back to it. I'm not exactly
Yeah.
sure what I am.
Yeah,
ultimately,
I just hate the government.
yeah.
That's a big part of it for me too.
Well, it's interesting that those that are pushing for, for all these laws and all this pushback against white people or different groups or men or anything like that, are asking for more government because it's really not just white people that it's been the government that has been the cause of, most of these atrocities.
Yeah, it's government involvement that to me is a real issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the state ruins everything, including marriage.
Oh yeah. You don't think the government
Yeah.
should be involved in marriage?
No.
No.
Yeah, I just have too many I hear too many stories from good men who were noble basically got screwed over because state was involved.
Yeah.
Basically, it's no fault divorce. It just basically penalizes fathers. So that's the one thing that the only men's issue that I can like kind of like understand as like this, these online communities and all this crap is protecting fathers to ensure their posterity because they want to see their kids when divorce happens. That's
Yeah.
the one thing I can like totally understand.
That's an example of something that's unfair.
Yeah, it's totally unfair.
Especially when 80% of divorces are started by women, I believe.
Initiated by women, and the number one reason is dissatisfaction.
Wow. They're not satisfied. They divorce. They take your kids. Take your money.
Yeah.
Um,
I have a friend, I'm not gonna name him because he's big. Um, he started not he started a pretty big burger franchise.
mhm.
And he did very well, but he was a very hardworking. He would describe himself this way too, nerdy kind of guy. He studied hard in school. He got his business degree hard, like aces, working hard kind of guy. But he did not understand female nature at all. 'Cause he pretty much just had his nose in the books. So once he got the success, the first beautiful woman that gave him attention, he thought he thought it was love.
Yeah.
He thought it was like, wow, this beautiful, like this is it. Like I made it, but because he didn't have the experience to understand how they can be Medusa and they can take advantage of you, and he gave her a ring, got her all the stuff, and then when they separated, he took him to the cleaners.
So they were married?
Yeah,
Oh gosh.
because
Yeah.
he was just ignorant to understanding that can happen. Because when we don't talk about, we should talk about the dark side of men, of course. But if we don't talk about the dark side of women, this happens. And the more you understand aesthetics, which is my mastery,
Mhm.
aesthetics allows you to look through that because, in the same way propaganda works. Propaganda works by, you can wrap demonic hatred beautifully and the masses will normalize it for you, right?
Mhm.
That's propaganda. Well, in the same way, a woman can be gorgeous with her makeup and her body on point, but she can be a Lilith. She can be a witch, you know?
Sure.
And these kind of stories is what makes me very tenacious about bringing the state involved. And I've gotten the chance to get married a couple times from girls who actually like basically proposed to me.
Sure.
and I just couldn't go through with it, you know?
Yeah.
I said we can be life partners and maybe think about kids and all this, but um I don't want to bring the government involved.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I mean, you can't do a prenup, of course. Government's still involved. I totally.
Prenups don't stand though.
Well, it depends. Depends.
You
They
know?
can. They can. I mean, you think what like Kevin Costner's doing pretty well right now.
Okay.
There's you gotta have it set up.
Yeah. You
Exactly
gotta do a
right.
post-nup also, and you have to update it every couple years.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
it can. I mean, I'm not saying that it's foolproof, but I'm saying there's
Yeah,
things
yeah.
that you can do to protect yourself, and you better know who you're marrying. You better have shared values, and yes, people
I
can.
often wonder what's wrong with loving a woman with all your heart. She loves you with all your heart, and then you guys just live together
Oh, I don't.
like
I
that.
mean, no,
Although common law marriage in Virginia, where I'm at, will happen after a while. It'll take.
I don't think there's anything. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't
Yeah,
at all,
yeah.
actually. I think traditionally you see marriage.
Yeah, married through the church.
and I think that we should have really strong families right now. I mean, you look
Yes,
at like what's
yes.
going on in the black community. It's pretty simple. They're growing up without fathers. 75% of black kids right now are growing up without fathers, and that is a problem. How do we fix that? And if you look at the everything that's happened over the last 50 years or so, or actually even longer, 60 years. Really, when they started welfare
Welfare
was
state.
when
Yep.
all of that started. They actually incentivized people to not be in a
Yeah.
relationship. So, um, yeah, those are a lot of the issues that we're dealing with because there's not, let's call it marriage or some type of contract to keep people together.
Well, what I will say is, well, two things to that point you just made. One is yes, fathers are the most important role that our society needs today, by far. Like fathers will save the world. Like literally, dads are going to be what saves it. The patriarchy. Patriarchy is nothing but a bunch of dads. That's the first part. But the second thing is, I'm not saying like there's marriages that work. You know, my brother's happily married. But I'm just saying that the common average man is not incentivized to marry.
Sure. Oh, I agree.
That's what I'm saying.
I totally
yeah.
agree with you.
Yeah, there's no incentive for me to marry.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And also, it's like for both the 80 and the 20%. We talked about this 80% of men, 20% of men, right? Because for the 20% of men, why buy the milk when you're getting when you're getting the milk for free, right? So that's happening in one end, and then for the unless they just want to start a family at one point, and in the 80% of men, they just feel like this isn't worth the effort. So today in 2023, again, I'm just giving perspective on. I know some truths can be harsh, but it's worth hearing it to be oriented towards what reality is today. And I think that's the current state of affairs. Like men just don't have incentive to get married. We're not being given a good reason to get married. And of course, we want kids, we want our progeny, but a lot of men they want that without bringing the government involved because they looked at their parents before them with the 50% divorce rate of the boomers as well. And they're saying, well, it didn't work out. And that's what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
So they're kind of like, how can I navigate this in a different way?
Sure. Well, I mean, we need to figure it out because what we don't want to lose is the family.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you have kids?
No kids.
Okay. Do you want to have
Oh
kids
yeah,
soon?
absolutely. I'm definitely
See,
gonna.
I want to have kids too.
Yeah.
Because like the Christian side of me is like all of this is fairy dust if you don't have kids. Be fruitful and multiply. Like there's that side of me, but then I'm also like, I'm also honest enough to say I recognize that I will have to sacrifice a certain lifestyle and my individuality. Maybe not, but I like what I have going on right now too. So
Sure. Yeah. And as you get older, things might change. I wasn't sure for a long time if I was going to end up.
But great thing about men is you can have kids much later.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah,
You don't.
yeah. In that regard, yeah.
Yeah, you're not in a. We're not in a rush.
Yeah.
But no, it makes sense about not having the incentives. But I also think that.
Are you going to get married to the church or the state?
Oh, I don't even know. I haven't really thought about that. I mean, like as far as like, who would have control over the divorce, or how like was that, or just no? If we were to get a divorce,
I don't want to go off the course too much, but there's only one foolproof way to ensure your posterity, which is I don't know what woman will agree to this, but there's only one legal way to guarantee that you have your children. Because women almost always get custody of their kids unless they're like drug addicts or have serious like mental issues. They just get them. I have a friend, Jeff Younger, shout out. He's a viral case where his ex-wife, took his kids and is trying to transition them. And the kids are kind of being coerced into it with the therapist. And it's basically child abuse at this point.
Yeah.
But the judges and the courts are still protecting.
What state is this in?
Texas.
Texas, they're protecting it? Oh, God. What? God dang. That's shocking.
This is what I'm saying.
Both kids or just one? Like
both.
Oh, gosh. So she's
no. One of the boys.
Okay.
But she has both. But this is how bad it is. Where a good man is literally stripped. And when she's doing this sort of situation on the children, like, there's only one way. And again, I'm just going to say this in passing, but is if you want to guarantee it, I don't know what woman will agree to this, but if you fall in love with a woman, so you love this woman, what you do is you sign her as a surrogate because you love each other anyways, right? And ensure full custody of the children to you so that when the divorce happens, you'll still have some percentage, right? Because the way the courts are designed, but you'll have the kids.
Interesting. Huh?
I'm just throwing that out there because most people don't know. They always think like it's always losing battle. Well, technically speaking, that
Is that the guy, Jeff?
Yeah, that's my
His
boy right there.
public
Yeah, that's
custody
my man.
battle
Yeah.
helped ignite a movement against transgender health care for kids. Well, it carried him to the Texas house. Wow.
Yeah, he was on Tucker and everything.
Wow.
Yeah. Good guy.
Wow.
Good man.
Does it have a trigger warning?
He was going to become he was going to be, let me tell you how noble he was. He was going to become an Orthodox Christian monk. You know, because the whole Christian saying is either become a creative monk or create a family.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, those are polar extremes that they're using. There's some gray, you know, but they're basically saying you should go for one because in the middle is where there's degeneracy. You might get lost and lose who you are. And he was going to go the monk route. He said, you know what? I met this woman. I'll start a family. Uh-oh.
Wow.
Medusa came out.
I mean, yeah, I just wonder, like, so she completely, fooled him.
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So this is a
it can happen.
extreme situation.
It can happen.
And this is in Texas.
Yeah, it can happen.
The red state.
I think you got to have for me, if I end up getting married, you got to have full trust. I mean, I wouldn't do it without having complete trust. And because with, I think that trust, that's how you build a stronger relationship. So yeah, you can get hurt. Yeah, they can go and take your kids and turn them into trans kids. This was the thing that people had to think about that now. But you better know the person that you're marrying. And ultimately, if they end up fooling you and being somebody else, it's on them. It's I got fooled, but that's not.
As long as the kids don't get hurt, I would say that's the problem.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as the kids don't get hurt. Yeah. But yeah, how would you know?
But too many kids are getting hurt.
Yeah.
This is my point. And the data will show you that single fathers do way better at raising kids than single mothers.
Really?
Yes.
There's a lot more single mothers out there, though. I mean, they're having to deal with a lot more crap.
Yeah. There's a lot of research that shows that single fathers, they instill a lot more discipline into their children.
Fair. Yeah, there's unfortunately the fathers are the ones that leave, for the most part
often,
too.
Yeah,
so the mothers are kept.
But also, like my generation, the millennial generation, we're called a single motherhood generation. When you look at the BLS, like I have a friend who works for the Bureau of Labor Statistics in D.C., and he's like, yeah, when we do data, we call you guys a single motherhood generation. And I remember so many stories of my peers just like wondering where their dads were.
Yeah.
But I don't think people talk enough about how the mother created this narrative so that the children think of the fathers as evil people who wanted nothing to do with them.
If they're bad mothers, yes.
Yeah.
That's a bit, we go back to good people are bad people. To me, it's not a mother
good people
thing,
are bad people, but I'm also looking at it from the prism of an innocent child. Kids don't have any judgment like imprinted into them like this, okay? So you got to understand a lot of, like I grew up with both parents. I never went through a divorce. I actually, they're both together. I have like the ideal blessed white picket fence nuclear intact family. Like I was very lucky in that regard.
Yeah, me too.
But I remember one of my friends, I can't say his name, but I remember he came up to me and he just told me, he's like, you know what? This is crazy. Young man, we're kids, little ones when he said this to me. And he goes, it's very simple. Like, why don't I have a dad? And then the mother, she goes, well, it's because your dad was a bad man. He goes, well, then why did you marry him? This is a kid talking to the mom.
Sure.
I remember being there. It was awkward. And she goes, well, because he was a cloak chameleon who hid who he really was the whole time. And in the moment you were born, he changed into a different thing. That's basically what she was paraphrasing, right? And then, so either now the mom has to make the child believe that narrative to keep that relationship. And this is something I've seen with my generation where it's like, of course there's fathers who leave and that's wrong.
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
But also it's, it takes two to tango. And for some reason, we can't talk about, how the mothers may have pushed them away.
Sure. Well, yeah, I think in relationships, there could be the mother, it could be the father. There's bad people on both sides. And
definitely.
And who knows if maybe the kid's father did turn into a chameleon. We could debate
Yeah.
whether she should
Well,
tell the kid that at what age.
absence of judgment from her.
Yeah, probably. But
Yeah.
I think that a lot of the times the women aren't wanting to raise their kids without a dad. There's like different sections, and there's a lot of times where the woman files for divorce. 80% of the time, the woman files divorce, and then
80%.
takes the kids and takes the money. That goes on too. I mean, I've got friends with custody battles, and I look at how they both
Insane.
act. I'm like, come on, man, because both sides aren't putting the kids first, and I understand it gets bitter, and I mean, it's hard for me to judge when I haven't been through that, and I can only imagine how difficult it is with your
Yeah,
kid.
yeah,
I don't have a
sure.
kid, so I don't understand what
Yeah.
that's like, but you really do got to put that kid first, whether you're a mother or a father. I still think that we need more fathers. I mean, if you look at like the
I
black,
think fathers are the solution.
they are.
But the bottom line is
I mean,
that
look what's happening in the black community. What's really happening? You're lacking fathers, which is that masculine energy.
yeah.
And
And this is when I realized, you mentioned the black community. This is when I realized it's fathers are the lack of fathers is the cause of all the problems, in my opinion. Because when I go to South Korea, I go every year because most of my family is there. And I remember thinking about how, okay, in the US, we have all these races here, and we have to try to like homogenize and work with each other. And it's a melting pot of cultures in that way as well, because we bring in different values to assimilate. And I looked at South Korea and I'm like, okay, now let me look at, we're pretty much mainly East Asian here. And I looked at all the kids who are still dealing drugs and doing crime and doing property damage. And in South Korea, there aren't black people. They're all raised without fathers.
Hmm.
And I was like, anytime there's a universality, it's an opportunity for your brain to recognize a pattern.
Sure.
And I realized right there, I'm like, yeah, this is exactly what's happening with Black America.
Well, it's almost like it's by design too. It seems
Yeah.
like it's by design. I mean, we're talking about all the propaganda and stuff before, but I mean, they do that, and then they try to turn black people against white people.
Yeah.
And they do that or let's say black people and liberal white people that say white people are the problem. So they make it a group that's the problem, and not, oh well, it's not racism that's causing the problems in America. Uh, let's say that there were a lot of problems in America caused by racism for a long time, but that's kind of long and gone. There are some racists out there, not that many.
I never really meet them.
Yeah, no, me either. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's the thing. It's like,
Find me a racist, please.
yeah, but yeah, it's hard to.
Yeah.
But I could show you quickly who I would consider a racist on the other side. Not non-white people. I'm talking people that just hate white people.
Oh, like Don Lemon.
Yeah, there's an example.
There you go.
I mean that's a lot of that movement
Yeah.
is against, like you were talking about earlier, white men. Well, it was wrong when we were racist to black people, and it's wrong when you're racist to white people. It's just wrong. And
Sure.
I think that society is forgetting what Martin Luther King said. Judge not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. That's what I believe in, and that's what I think that we need to do to build bridges in society. Being able to talk about having
Well,
conversation.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's what I focus on.
I want to go over a couple of the questions before we wrap it up.
We talked a lot more about like dicey stuff than art.
Oh, I missed the manosphere part.
That's a big movement with young people right now. It's funny. I went to a Manosphere event and like to speak, public speak,
Mhm.
and there was all these pickup artists and all these people. I have nothing to do with any of y'all.
Yeah.
I'm here to talk about art history. This is a men's event, so I'll talk about masculine art.
Yeah. It's so weird, like the whole pickup, game and stuff,
Pickup
and
games,
seeing what
yeah.
how they do it. But I think like a lot of what we're seeing right now in, let's call it society, where it used to be on the internet, or to people it was like, people couldn't really look into you. I think it has to do with quality now over the quantity. So a lot of the pickup guys, I'm sure they can go out and pick up chicks, but
I don't know anything about pickup, man.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I just I just find those guys hilarious.
Yeah.
You know, they're really interesting. Like their whole life, they define their masculinity based on approval of the opposite sex. That's their whole prism. It's just like, it's like, how can I peacock? I'm gonna dye my hair pink and make a mohawk. It's like, all right, well, do you want to do that? You know, pretty wild stuff.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
whole world.
like I personally, I love style. I love fashion. I love anything aesthetic.
Yeah.
That's my life.
Yeah.
Like whether it's compositions and paintings and looking at museums, like whatever it is, like, or whether it's style or whether it's architecture, anything aesthetic, that's my life. So I love aesthetics myself, but you should be doing it as a nucleus because it fits your identity.
Mm-hmm.
Like you should be wearing clothes that reflects who you are as a person and how it represents your values. Like that's how you should dress because then that's where you feel good whenever you put your wardrobe together.
Yeah,
You know?
no doubt. What about Kanye with his ass out? You seen those pictures?
Yeah, with the
What's
recent
going
one,
on with
the
that?
recent
On
stuff.
the boat?
I don't know what happened to him, but he recently wore the Jew Lives Matter T-shirt when he walked out. I don't know where he was again, but it's funny because like I really like Ye, not because he's intellectually sexy but he's not boiling the frog. He goes all the way to the hottest temperature, just and then people question like, why are you doing this? And he actually said something that was semi profound. He said the reason why is because I am not like a Jordan Peterson intellectual. I'm not these kind of people. I'm the battering ram. I don't mind if people hate me.
Mm-hmm.
My role is to just be a big punch at the door so that the door opens and then everyone can come in with their laser focus. I said, okay, if he embraces that role, then what he did and all the trouble he's causing, that explains his history. He sort of embraced being a battering ram.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be respected for his intellect.
Hmm.
He's not really interested in that.
Yeah.
He doesn't want that necessarily. He wants to be a social function in a way. I'm like, that's interesting. Because he's so influential and impactful for young people at least. But yeah, I mean, again, for me, because I'm a free speech absolutist, I will defend my enemy's right to speak. Or it doesn't matter who it is. I will defend a person's right to speak all the way down. So but yeah, he was dramatic with that White Lives Matter t-shirt. We should have been wearing those t-shirts, man.
What was it?
White Lives Matter
Oh,
t-shirts.
yeah. Yeah, that whole thing, man. It's so intense with the.
I mean, when it first started, like you said, when they were like, I remember when it first started, I was still at GW. This movement started during my undergrad.
Sure.
I was in the library, and then this girl comes in with these 3 other people just aggressively. It's weird because there's only one black person, and then the others were white people. But anyways, like, do you think Black Lives Matter? I was like, yeah, what kind of stupid question is that? Like, well, if you think it does, you should stand here in solidarity with us. Like, nah, I'm here studying.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, well, then you're not with us. I'm like, all right, there you go. That tells me everything.
Either this or that.
Yeah, exactly. But it's all clown movements, man.
Yeah.
And we're at the point where like we need to be able to, I know it sounds odd when I say this, but I want people to fully be themselves. That's like that's what I love spreading more than anything.
Except fat people, though, right? I saw something. You said something on.
Except
actually,
fat people.
Hold on, I want to bring this up.
Yeah.
It just came to me.
Yeah.
What did you say about?
Like a racist, I am a fattest.
What did you say? Hold on. Pretty funny. Good morning. I have 0 time for fat people.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
No, I just I don't know. That's a whole different kind of worms. but I've been noticing again, to me, like guys, aesthetics are everything to me.
Mhm.
Okay? And I believe the aesthetics of the participants tell you everything about the ideology or their worldview. So when I meet if I see a girl who has pink hair and a septum piercing and thick bowl glasses and is grossly overweight, I know where she probably stands.
Probably. Yep.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. 9 times out of 10, I would guess right.
Right.
Because she has decided to adorn herself in a certain way that she could have done elsewhere. So for me, when I see grossly overweight people. I'm not talking about chubby and all that. You know what I mean? Like that's cool, but like when I see like fat people, I think they don't care about anything. They don't care about themselves first of all, but so how could they care about anything moral, which is even a higher value, you know? And I'm judging their humanity,
Sure.
but yeah, I guess that's my one bigoted
Yeah,
position.
I thought it was a joke or something. I was like, oh, is it, have zero time. I mean,
Yeah.
but is it, do you have any fat friends?
Kind of. Like I have like fat peers and collectors and all that. I mean, let me make clear. Like I can understand a person being overweight a little bit. I'm talking about like
I
really
get
fat.
obese, but like, there's,
Yeah.
I actually know some really cool, really big,
Yeah.
big people. And I've,
Also, that's Twitter where people like there's like a hyperbolic quality where people say something more outlandish for the effect.
sure.
So like often I get this where people meet me and they'll go like, "Oh man, you say some crazy stuff." And I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
You know, it's like I might feel 6 out of 10 about an issue, but I'm definitely going to tweet it as a 10
Got it.
because then it's going to get retweeted.
Yeah. No, but
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Yeah, so there's also the effect of being saturated, right? So of course I hope people have the humor to understand the context, but yeah, it's better to be in shape, I would say.
It's
Health as
definitely
well.
healthier.
Yeah, yeah.
It's definitely healthier. No, it's, I mean, the thing with people that are dealing with like obesity in a way is an addiction. I mean, as far as how people eat, I got some very obese people in my family,
Yeah.
and they're all great people though.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's like anything, man, personally, where it's content of somebody's character. Um, I mean, I can make jokes, but I'm always actually really careful because, um, that's one that kind of gets a pass, and I don't like look down like what you posted. It doesn't bother me. I
Mhm.
just, I do think about like people that are super overweight, that are good
Yeah.
people. How they're like, oh, all of a sudden I can't now talk to Arthur, which I would think that they actually could talk to you if they get you up.
Sure.
And
Yeah, I just finished a commission for one of my collectors and he's pretty overweight. And I'm glad he laughed at that because like we're friends.
sure,
Like I'm not saying I'm not denigrating their humanity,
sure.
but I do love unapologetic open dialogue that's messy sometimes.
Well, yeah,
Yeah. I think there's a place for that, and I think that's actually sort of necessary for certain conversations to unfold properly.
sure.
Because the corollary is people being kind of uptight and rigid because they want to walk on eggshells.
Well, that's the world
So
we're living in today.
exactly. So I prefer to go the other way, and sometimes it can be wrong, but I'm not acting like I know everything. I'm learning as I go, and I'm just being authentic and straight up about it. So
And right now, seems like fat people are annoying you a little bit for whatever your thought process is, and you'll probably be like, I love fat people. Come give me a hug.
I love all people, man.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm the same way. I really do.
Yeah.
And
Jeez.
no, it's good though. I mean, I like that you're a absolutist with speech.
Yeah.
And you're actually standing up for a lot of the issues that I align with, or I'm even standing up against the issues. And in society right now, we're not supposed to talk about a lot of things that we talked about on this podcast, and people can make any of the conclusions that they want about it, but it's got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of the focuses of this podcast is being able to have conversations, but try to do it in a way that doesn't cause more of a divide. I feel like if I'm causing more of a divide, then it's having a negative effect. I don't want to do that, but do it in a way to bring, people together, because there's plenty of things that are dividing us right now. And I think it has to do with the inability to be able to have conversations that are, not that this was uncomfortable. I wasn't uncomfortable about anything really, but that you're not supposed to have because
Yeah.
society doesn't think that it's appropriate. You know, this would be considered an inappropriate conversation to
Probably half of what we talked about would be considered inappropriate.
inappropriate talk about.
I'm a very inappropriate person.
But
Yeah.
is there, you know, is there any validity to that? We shouldn't talk about it because we have hate. You
Yeah.
know, I know I don't have hate, so I don't
Yeah,
hear hate.
what we need to do is end all the straw manning.
Yeah.
'Cause yeah, exactly. Like Ed Clay can come up to a person and talk about, I don't know, like anything, like water, let's say, and then water,
Mhm.
and then that person can push back saying, "So you're saying that I'm not filtering my water properly or whatever it is,"
Right.
and we're getting to a point where there's we need to elevate discourse to good faith,
Mhm.
and we need to be willing to have conversations about everything and not language police.
Yeah.
And I believe the reason why I've always had this frame worldview is because I am an artist. And I think as an artist, you de facto are a free speech agent as well, because you can only really create when you're in an open sort of state. Um, or if you apply that across the board too. And yeah, that's why I appreciate you having me on in that regard.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. What's your website? People can go see your art.
Check me out at arthurkwonlee.com. Instagram is Arthur Kwon Lee as well. You can find my email newsletter list on my everything. Actually, my website Arthur Kwon Lee. Everything is on the bottom. You can just click and subscribe to everything. And yeah, if you guys want to put some beautiful art in your home from canceled fine artists in the game, you know.
Arthur, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.